So the last class we were discussing about some of the techniques, how to manufacturing or fabricate the micro devices or even in the sizes of nano ranges fabrication out like imprint lithography, etc. And this is also one of the technique like capillary force lithography method where you can fabricate this kind of devices like MEMS-based devices as micromechanical, devices for even soft robotics, etc. So this technique same as we have seen in the embossing technique, okay? And of course, here playing with the role of temperature, like if you are trying to coat polymers on the metal substrate, you can play around with the TG, and then you can get you can optimize the thickness of the deposition. Okay. So what you're going to do, you place your polymeric, solid material on the substrate, and then you push or apply the compression forces of your mold, which basically the PDMS mold people use it. And once you do the compression force, what will happen? They'll be applying the temperatures, okay? And yeah, you have to heat the polymer system slightly above the TG so that I mean, the brittleness will, change into the ductile one, and then you get this kind of, substrate. Okay, and even if you want to go for this kind of, pillar-based one, or if you want to have a thin film, you can again do the same method. Of course, here the thickness of the material slightly you have to reduce it so that your all materials once you melt once you change the temperature from beyond TG, all the materials gets into the where the vacant portion are there in the mold actually. So as a result, you will have this kind of thin and oriented film actually. So this also can be, mimicked through this your natural, mold actually. So I'll show you one of the paper where I got actually. Uh, this not only used for fabricating MEMS actually devices, can also be used for other, applications. Something like if you want to have ultra super hydrophobic surfaces, you can also mimic these kind of, structures. Because if you have this kind of surface roughened area, what will happen? Like your contact, angle will be, increased actually. As a result, like you will end up with a hydrophobic surface, and once you have the super hydrophobic surface, you will have a multiple functionality like self-cleaning nature. All those things will be, comes into the category. So right, the self-cleaning characteristics, all those things, like while some of the nano, structured material like textile applications, you can find there are some subset like you don't have to wash those clothes actually. I mean, they themselves has self-cleaning characteristics. So yeah, this paper was yeah, this paper was also studies about those things like how to fabricate the super hydrophobic surface with the help of lotus leaf actually. Okay. So lotus leaf, if you see them, like you can find the up and down those kind of this kind of morphology, right? So what they used this structure, lotus leaf as a template or the mold, positive replicas of lotus leaf. And then what they did, they took the PDMS based, pre-polymer, and then they cast it on the surface of your, lotus leaf actually. So as a result, your whatever the mold your lotus leaf has actually, you'll get the same, structure of your, lotus leaf on your polymer, PDMS based polymer. Okay, and of course they didn't leave like that. So they obtained this kind of surface after casting on the lotus leaf of your PDMS polymer. They also treated the surface different media like basic media and acid media, etc. Of course, in the neutral media for some days, like 31 days. And then they have seen how the surface are changing, like with respect to that, lotus leaf template or the mold. And then they have seen that the contact angle was pretty high, and then it was keep on reducing. And in case of the neutral one, which was not reducing at all. That means the surface is getting affected at acid and base medium. Okay. So yeah, this is also study like how to use natural base to replicas or the mold to fabricate super hydrophobic based devices or the substrate. Okay. So again, these are the some of the applications of different polymers like polystyrene at 130 degrees Celsius for 6 hours they manufacture to have this kind of structure morphology. Okay, and these are the some of the applications. Sorry, the publications where you can find even they have fabricated the sizes of 50 nanometers based on PG based polymers. Okay. So the next deposition method like chemical vapor deposition. And yeah, this is also kind of vacuum deposition method and used to produce very thin layer. In fact, the thickness can be varied from 20 to 5000 nanometer or 5 micron. And of course, this can be widely used for semiconductor industry. Okay, and the typical the instrumentation looks like this. You have a furnace, and then you have a heating mantle, maybe of like a thermal or electrical heating. A mantle. Sometimes you can also use furnace actually. Okay, and with the help of this, wafers or kind of some your precursors, maybe in the form of gases, will be pumped towards to this furnace, and that's and that your gas molecules will be, under that will be undergoes different temperature, and subsequently that will be deposited on the surface of your substrate where you want to deposit. So yeah, here the rate of gas purging, all those things will decides your coating property like thickness of the coating as well as the deposition method. And yeah, so depending upon this energy sources also will be varied because at what temperature you are evaporating those precursors in order to deposit your materials on the coating on the substrate. And typically we use some sort of precursors like halogen containing precursors like a titanium chloride, tetrachloride, or pentachloride, etc. And you can also use some mixed metal oxide as well as ions. Okay, to have those kind of multifunctional coatings, and each has different kind of protocol to evaporate those precursors in order to form as a gaseous one, and subsequently they get deposited on the substrate of your metals or some other substrate. So these types you have seen already, like depending upon the type of heating, it has been classified into different method like hot wall thermal CVD and plasma assisted CVD. And of course, the atmospheric pressure also, like environment, whether it is working in the low pressure or high pressure or even in the vacuum pressures, etc. The selection of CVD also depending upon the precursors what you are taking, because there are certain precursors are very hygroscopic material. So in that case, you cannot use the normal atmosphere pressure CVD. You have to go slightly like a ultra high vacuum based CVD so that you can deposit those precursors on perfectly on the surface of your substrate. Okay. Yeah, again, like they have plenty of method like photochemical method where you can use some photochemical based precursors. Okay, there you will be using some IR or UV based sources where you can deposit your photochemical based precursors. Okay. So yeah, so it can be also used to manufacture carbon nanotube as well. Okay, so if you want to use those kind of carbon nanotube manufacturing, you have to take carbon resources, some sort of like hectane or hexane or octane or pentane, etc. And of course, you have to use some inert gases. Okay, and then ultimately you have to evaporate all those hydrogen or you have to decompose those hydrogen to make sure that you are depositing only carbon based sources on the surface or the substrate where you want to deposit. So again, the purging of gases and the catalyst also important because at which rate the gases are getting evaporated or decomposed, etc. And you can also develop, I mean, the functionalized, I mean, carbon nanotube in the CVD process. That means like you can fabricate the CNT along with the hydroxyl functional group or acid functional group, etc. To make sure that you have those functionality, I mean, which was prepared by using in situ method. So, I mean, the functionality again, because carbon is hydrophobic, and if you want to introduce some sort of hydrophilic surface like alcohol or acid functionalities, because we want to mix your filler into the metal matrix, carbon nanotube should have those functionality. I mean, it should have some sort of hydrophilic surfaces. So if you see the mechanism, like the gases first they'll travel through that, I mean, vacuum atmosphere, and then it first they start to, I mean, decompose, and then once the, I mean, the temperature at which the precursors gets decomposed. So in case of like carbon nanotube, you have a hydrogen. Suppose if you use some carbon hydrogen precursors along with some catalyst, what will happen? You at certain temperature, all those other moieties will start to decompose, and selectively those carbon, I mean, material will start to diffuse or deposit on the surface of your substrate. Okay, and other things will start to I mean, get decomposed from the precursors. And then, yeah, for kind of nano crystal growth, like at which rate the nucleation started, and the growth is also important. Okay. So there, I mean, the coolant, I mean, the quenching system, all those things will decide your nucleation growth and their subsequent crystal growth formations. And these are the few, schematic things where you can see like how the precursors are getting into the system, and how selectively those other moieties are getting decomposed, etc. So ultimately, like you'll end up with this kind of thin film, or the film which was grown on the surface. So the deposition stages, again, it has been divided into 4 categories. First, I mean, the volatile precursors gets into the reactor's chamber, and then the adsorption of those precursors happens on the substrate surface, and the formation of intermediate product, maybe of like slightly of like carbon oxide or the metal oxide based precursors or intermediate product. And then you are selectively decompose those, I mean, precursors product, okay, in order to deposit, I mean, only the material you would like to have it, okay. And subsequently, followed by that, like nucleation and growth of that solid layer grains will start to form. And then the formation of volatile byproduct also, will be there, and that will be subsequently removed from the reaction chamber by the carrier gas. And yeah, these are the few factors which influence the deposition rate, like precursor delivery method and the pressure, of course, the carrier gas and their chemical properties, etc. And substrate temperature also sometimes decides the coating thickness and the quality or the appearance of the coating, etc. Here you can see some of the example, like if you want to fabricate, silicon based coating, okay. Just they took the silicon tetra, I mean, hydrogen chloride, hydrogen gas, silicon gas actually, and which was heated and then deposited on the surface of metal, okay. So look at here, silicon is a highly toxic. So, and of course, the hydrogen gas is also highly explosive. So the temperature really play a key role here. And yeah, we have to be careful at what temperature we are operating this CVD bomb. Okay. So now the same, silicon oxide and then silicon nitrate based deposition with the help of same Slane gases. Okay. And but of course the environment is different here. Like they have added the additives called amine based one, and here oxygen atmosphere. And then the things changes, like a silica or silicon dioxide based coating was obtained. And yeah, with that other moieties, they have got the silicon nitrate based coating, which was deposited on the temperature of 700 to 800 Celsius. Now I'll show you the same precursors, but different temperatures as well as with the different additives. What are the different types of silicon coating they have obtained. So everywhere they have used the same, silane-based gases, but here they use hydrogen, and here they use ammonia, and hydrogen-based combinations, and then here also they used, hydrogen gas along with nitrous oxide, or again mixed, oxide environment. So again, when you change the additives or the, other, precursors, you also have to change the temperatures, etc., to make sure that you are getting the, good quality or the homogeneous coating of those, silica. And this again, by depending upon the operating condition as well as the pressure and as well as the environment, the CVD is again classified into the atmospheric pressure CVD and low pressure CVD, etc. Difference is that they use very low pressure because they don't use that kind of precursors where you want to have, really ultra high vacuum or the really, high pressure to get your precursors into the system. So depending upon the pressure they use as well as the environment, like a vacuum or the normal environment, these are has been classified. Okay, so we'll get into the different, field of application, like how materials are used for biosensors. Okay, so you know that biosensors are widely used to detect the biomolecules for various types of applications, including the bacteria or virus detections, etc. So basically, what we do, like we have to design certain functional group or our antibodies, something like carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide or nitrogen-based molecules or glucose-based functionality, or can be of, kind of structures which has so and so functional group. Okay. So that functional group, eventually they will start to, bind with certain functionalities of your disease or your bacteria or virus, etc., or even gases. Okay. So once that is matching with that kind of, once it is detected, of course, why it is detecting? Because they are matching those functional group or the antibodies are, detecting certain, the DNA sequences of your, virus or the bacteria. Once that is matching or the detected, that means you will have a changes in your either physical measurement or kind of electrical measurement, etc. So that can be again amplified with the help of our transducer, and then you can say that your maybe the sensing which was desired to sense, which was detected. So differences in the amplitude again, which can give you the insight about how much intense the detection was there. Okay. So say for example, these are the species to be detected. That is called analyte. Okay, and of course you can also use some filters so that you can pass through the certain number of species into the sensing characteristics. Okay, so this was the layer we want to recognize, which actually exists in the virus or the bacteria or the DNA pattern. And once it is detected, again we have a transducer where it amplifies the signal, and then you get those signal with the help of any voltage detector or the ammeter, etc. So if you see the the explanation, like biosensors are devices to convert either physical, biological, or chemical signals into the biological system into an electrical one by identifying the exact responses to the target analytes. The best example is glucose biosensor. Where we detect the glucose content. Okay. Typically, the sensor that uses to detect the enzyme glucose oxidation. Okay. So you have a glucose, presence, in your blood or kind of other, buffers in your body. We just sense how much that concerned glucose get, oxidized. Okay, that means the alpha D glucose, how much it is converting into the alpha glucone or 1,5 lactone, as well as how much the hydrogen peroxide was formed. Okay, this will be sensed through your biosensor, and subsequently, that will be, measured quantitatively. How much the glucose was present in your blood or something. And the sensor, another example, like by changes in your pH, etc., that also can be monitored. Say for example, okay, the conversion was measured. Okay, if the conversion, I mean the hydrogen peroxide, okay, we have different pH, or I mean the acid functionalities for different species. Through that also the signal, electrical signal can be amplified, and that can be measured actually. Okay. I mean, there are certain other cases. If you have the mixed components, say for example, hydrogen peroxide, along with that you have some other bases or acid. So how to measure, I mean, the quantitatively. So in order to do that, we have a biosensor where, I mean, which can specifically measure the pH or the temperature of your, I mean, species presence in your, samples. Not only that, like kind of piezoelectric responses can also be measured. I mean, how much the sensing was happened, or the quantitative measurement of, sample. So piezoelectricity is electric charges that accumulates in a certain solids, including your, sample, like biological sample, like bone, DNA, etc., in response to the applied mechanical stress. Okay. So in addition to that, conducting nanoparticles, like you can also use some nanoparticle which has excellent electrical conductivity. I mean, you can, incorporate them in the polymeric materials to enhance their sensing characteristics, etc. Okay. So we'll see some of the examples how the piezoelectric biosensor works, or the kind of other conducting polymer-based, biosensor works. You have time, right? Okay. So look at here, this slide. You have a target antigen or the antibody, and then you have, the antibody which was present, in your kind of disease, either a bacteria or virus. Okay. So the piezoelectric material exhibit a excellent mechanical oscillation under a alternating current. Okay, maybe of alternating current voltage, producing an oscillating electric field. Okay. And when a mass increases due to the interactions of these molecules means when your target antigen, that means we are inducing that biosensor, and then if they match with this, targeting the antibody, okay, what will happen? There will be a changes in the mass, okay. Okay, and we have the system such a way that, I mean, our system, since it is a piezoelectric based this one devices, once the mass increases, that means there will be a changes in the, oscillation, or the forces will act, and that will produce some sort of electricity in the system. I mean, that again you can, denoted, or that can be detected in the, sensors like amplitude versus frequency. If there is no binding, and if there is no, if binding is there, you can you can see the changes in the amplitude of the current actually. So with this mass changes, responses of mass, we can detect how much the, electrical, current was generated from the piezoelectric based biosensor. Okay. This is one of the example where you can use like piezoelectric concept for sensing those, antibody. Okay. So likewise, we have like a magnetostrictive biosensor, as well as the conductive polymer-based, electrochemical sensors. Okay, maybe that we'll see in the next class. Maybe next class means next week, yeah, Tuesday. And some other people have emailed me regarding that they're not happy with the marks of mid-semester. I don't know who sees here. No, Prakriti is not here. Who else have one more person? Rajat, have you emailed?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so better discuss here. Hey, can you please reduce your noise? Yeah. Question number 1 to 6, right? Because the questions are shuffled one. So do you mean this question? Rajat, did you mean this question? Derive the structure property relationship of SBr against the PVC homopolymer?
Yes, sir.
So you look at here, you have not discussed the structure of SBr at all. You have just mentioned the properties of SBr. You have not discussed anything related to how the property will be varied if I increase the styrene content in SBr or butadiene content in SBr. Of course, PVC, like PVC is a kind of homopolymer. You cannot play around with their structures. Maybe you can play around with their molecular weight or their distributions, etc. So how can I give you more marks? Tell me. I mean, still I given 1 mark.
Okay, sir.
So I mean, I have no answers actually. Second question you see now. Why nitrile rubber exhibit excellent oil resistance? You have not discussed about their charges or the nitrile content, etc. Nothing.
Okay.
And polar, non-polar, nothing. Hydrophilic, hydrophobic, nothing you have discussed. So for me, it's very tough to give marks. So again, the 6th question. How much you got actually?
4, sir.
It was all mixed, Rajat, like resin, plastic product, although it looks familiar, similar to rubber, that, this. It's a very simple word. Resin means uncompounded or kind of unfilled one. And cured rubber means it has kind of processed one and it's a filled one with the help of polymer additives. That's it. I see. I mean, I can give 1 mark extra maybe here, but not for others. Other questions, I have no. I'm helpless for you. Sorry.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, fine then. Okay, guys, carry on. See you then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So, more doubts.
Yeah, Bharataj, please.
So, if possible, could you share the entire answer key so that we don't make the same mistakes in the NSEM?
No, I discussed right after the exam. Probably you were absent, I guess. Can you please check the recorded version on,
Okay,
last
sir,
week
I'll do that.
on 4th or something, just after the midsem.
Okay, sir. Yeah,
Yeah.
After the midsem, I was not there that class. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I discussed actually. Maybe you,
Okay,
you
sir.
check the recorded version.
Sorry then, my mistake.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you,
no
sir.
problem. Yeah, okay.